Captain America is one of the oldest superheroes to exist in comic books and still be relevant today. It's his 80th anniversary, a pretty big milestone, and what's Marvel going to do to celebrate? Are they going to release a hardcover book with some of Captain America's best stories? Are they going to make a 1-to-1 scale replica of Cap's shield with all the names of every important comic book creator who's ever worked on the character? Or perhaps we're going to get a very well-made documentary about the story of Captain America? Well, if you have any idea about the current state of the comic book industry, you know none of those are happening. What we're getting instead is a gay Captain America. Before I even start on this, there's something I have to say. This whole idea that the comic book fandom is full of unaccepting bigots is absolutely ridiculous. In truth, the majority of comic book fans and people who like this type of entertainment in general want one very simple thing: good characters and interesting stories. Give us that and we'll be happy. And it really shouldn't be that hard to deliver on something so simple, especially when there are decades of material showing how it's done. But the current comic book pros are so busy virtue signaling that doing anything remotely close to a good job isn't even on their to-do list. And make no mistake about it, this is exactly what this new gay Captain America is. A virtue signal, and a pretty shallow one at that. We'll get back to that in a moment, but first, let's take a look at the character. His name is Aaron Fischer, and he's described by the creative team behind him as Captain America of the Railroads.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
It's also stated that he's inspired by heroes of the queer community, activists, leaders, and everyday folks pushing for a better life, and that he stands for the oppressed and the forgotten. And here's a look at his design, and at first glance, the art looks okay. Actually, come to think of it, compared to recent entries in the Marvel and DC libraries, it's downright impressive. At least compared to things like Nubia and America Chavez. And if you take a closer look, you'll discover a few interesting things. For example, no, your eyes don't deceive you, his shield is actually a trash can lid. Hey buddy, Oscar the Grouch called, he wants his roof back. And you might as well give it back, because it's not like that thing's going to be useful in a firefight or stop something like, a punch from the Juggernaut. But the trash can shield is not the most interesting thing on this artwork. No, it's not the ascot, and it's not his stupid haircut either. And if you don't look close enough, you might just miss it. But if you haven't found it by now, I'm not going to make you look for it. It's on his neck. See that little red star? Our new Captain America, our new LGBTQ Captain America, is apparently a communist.
You serious?
Okay, you gotta give me credit. I lasted this long. Now excuse me for a second. I gotta go get the pillow. Communist Captain America. Okay, try to say this in one sentence without laughing. A communist Captain America. And yes, I'm all too aware of the existence of characters like Crimson Dynamo and Red Guardian, but this isn't exactly the same thing now, is it? And some might say, well, a red star doesn't necessarily have to be connected to the Soviets or communism, and to that I say, sure it's not.
Yeah, and a swastika is just a Tibetan good luck charm. Now come on.
If you want to find out for yourselves, the information is readily available online. A quick look on Wikipedia will tell you everything you need to know about this symbol, what it stands for, and what it represents. So no, it's not something else, and if they claim otherwise, it's dishonest or, at best, ignorant. But I digress. The character is going to make his first appearance in a miniseries of 5 books called The United States of Captain America. And the release of these books is going to be timed with Pride Month. Everything about this character screams virtue signaling and pandering. And everyone involved with this book is doing their best to showcase their identities and their intentions. From mentioning that the artist is transgender, something that has absolutely no relevance to the creation of a good comic book, to the writer directly antagonizing the fans on Twitter by calling the fans assholes and telling them to stay mad if that's what they need.
Oh! Oh, beautiful!
Speaking of the author, one Christopher Cantwell, I apologize if I butchered that name, his tweets are directed at fan responses to his book, and he's essentially insulting the fans for having an opinion based on the information they were provided. And here's the problem. In his tweets, he describes that the story is actually going to follow Steve Rogers, the original Captain America, Sam Wilson, the Falcon, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, and John Walker, US Agent, who have all held the Captain America mantle at one point, around the country as they search for Captain America's lost shield. And along the way, they're going to meet a lot of people they've inspired, including this new LGBTQ Captain America. And instead of leading with that, they decided to open with identity politics. And at this point, people are fed up with identity politics in comic books and escapist entertainment altogether. And they're starting to voice their opinions. So you don't get to be mad about people's reaction to something that you intentionally misrepresented just so you can get likes on Twitter. And ironically confirming a lot of the criticism by acting like an absolute jackass. And you can tell that these people don't care about the comic books, the characters, the fans, or the very people they claim to be representing. If they cared about this book, they would have given an accurate description of it instead of using a character's sexuality to promote it. If they cared about the characters, they wouldn't have made the real Captain America into a Nazi. And don't forget, when it comes to Fischer, it's not the fans that labeled him as LGBTQ. It's the creators of the book that decided to introduce him as an identity instead of a character. And a lot of these so-called comic book pros' stance on fans is pretty clear. They used every buzzword in the book to label fans for even the slightest criticism, villainize, and antagonize, and then they wonder why no one's buying their books. But the most disgusting thing in all of this is probably the hypocrisy on display when it comes to the people they're supposed to be representing. They wouldn't hesitate to use these very same people as a shield for the criticism they're getting. And if among the many things in your life you happen to share one of the identities these people have decided to represent, and you disagree with them, you'll be treated no differently from the quote-unquote toxic fans. And by the way, it's 2021. Having a gay character is not stunning or brave. And people aren't rolling their eyes and calling you out because there's a gay character in the book. They're doing it because the character sounds and looks stupid and you're using him to show off in front of people that don't care about comic books. And when this thing ends up underperforming because people are sick of shallow checklist characters whose only features are skin color, gender, and sexual orientation, and being browbeat over the head with identity politics instead of getting, good stories, you'll have only yourselves to blame. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and I'll see you around. They should have just called him Captain Representation and gotten it over with. Jeez.